wasn't too struck on the fact that it was a love story that was originally a novel, kind of like most of Hollywood's most successful films. I really didn't understand much of it, and when I saw the first Twilight back in 2008, I actually loved it. And I actually got interested in it, and then from there I watched New Moon, I watched Eclipse. I have, I will admit to you, I have watched all these movies in their entirety. Each movie was a 2.5 hour long movie, just about. And this one, I think, is going to be even longer. The book, if you've read it, over 1,000 pages. A lot of crucial things happening in this film too, and that's why I think it's going to be one of the most anticipated coming your way on November 18th, and it's going to be one of the most successful Twilight Saga films we have seen. So much happening in this, from Bella changing to the wedding to Renesmee being born. I think they're going to leave that out though to the till the second part of the Twilight Breaking Dawn movie is released later on in June of 2012. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how fans are going to respond to this. Because of so many things finally happening. I think the first three movies were really leading up to this, if anything, because not too much in the way of excitement happened in the first three. I mean, they started off slow and they got more interesting as the movie progressed. I think in the second hour of each film is when things really got more interesting. But I think that the three movies we've seen, Twilight, New Moon, Breaking Dawn, were released in anticipation for this. This is when it's all going to reach a point of finality, I think. And I think this is why this movie is going to be so successful. I'm excited to see the many metamorphoses and changes the characters go through from the beginning of the film until the end of the film. We have an audio clip where we hear from Robert Pattinson, Taylor Lawrence, and Kirsten Stewart about the movie. And actually in the audio clip we're going to be playing for you, Taylor Lawrence actually talks about how much of a metamorphosis these characters go through from the beginning of the film until the end. And they all share their opinion on the movie and what it was like shooting it, and how fun it was. I know that the stars of Twilight have also been all over daytime television promoting this on different talk shows. I recently saw an interview with Taylor Lawrence on Regis and Kelly, and they showed a small clip from the film. I've seen the trailer. The trailer looks absolutely enticing. It's one of those trailers that really entice you to go see the film. All the Twilight Saga trailers were enticing, and I'm sure a lot of you saw an early glimpse of it months back on YouTube, and I'm sure you've all downloaded the trailer in anticipation for this, trying to find out what you can about the movie. It seems like everybody's been interviewed about it, even the photographer of the film. Actually was interviewed about it on a talk show, a late night talk show actually, most recently. So it seems like everybody is giving their opinion on this, so it's going to be really exciting to see how the film turns out. And the one thing that you have to anticipate is seeing how much the characters change from the beginning of the film until the end of the film. I'm from where this film was shot. A significant amount of these films were shot in British Columbia, given the setting of the actual province. I think that British Columbia is a pretty fitting place to shoot this thing. I'm actually from Newfoundland, Canada, so I'm pretty close to British Columbia, where over half of this film was actually shot. A very nice place, very friendly people from over there, and it definitely suits the Twilight book. It's a very suitable setting, I think, for the Twilight movie. And knowing it was shot in Canada makes me want to go see it even more, because I'm from here and I'm not that too far away from British Columbia, where a lot of the scenes were shot. So I'm sure the photographer definitely had a lot of fun over here putting together compilations for Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and now Breaking Dawn. And the soundtrack, which is actually available now, has a lot of great music on it. I know Bruno Mars was featured on that one. Other artists in the past that have been featured, of course, on the Twilight soundtracks were Linkin Park, and they have a number of different music videos out for this thing too. So it's great. It's awesome. But I think that the first three movies didn't have much action in them, and I'm sure you probably agree with me when you say, the movie started off slow, and then eventually the action built up and built up and built up. And I know in this movie we're going to get a lot more action because there's a lot more interaction between the vampires and the werewolves, and the werewolves actually give the vampires a little bit of a threatening feel, a threatening message, and things go from there. There are a lot of fight scenes actually in the movie between Taylor Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. So we're going to get a lot more action in this movie, which is great too, because for the guys who actually go and see the movie, you're going to be more entertained. It's not going to be one of those movies where you fall asleep because you're not interested in a vampire, werewolf, human being love triangle, which we see a lot of in professional wrestling when it comes to a storyline. So I think that this movie is going to be great. I mean, the posters look great. The amount of promotion that's going into it is great too. Although I think Taylor Lawrence does a lot more promotion than the other actors. I know Robert Pattinson is going to be on a number of talk shows later on, leading up to the movie. Its theatrical release on November 18th. But I know that Taylor Lawrence really overpromotes himself when it comes to this movie. He's been on everything from the top 40 countdown with Ryan Seacrest to Regis and Kelly most recently, and even for movies like Twilight, New Moon, and Breaking Dawn, he was using the internet as an open forum to promote it too. And I just wish the other actors in the movie would do just as much promoting as we're seeing Taylor Lawrence do. I have a great deal of respect for him for putting so much effort into promoting the movie. He's a great part of it, and I think that in Twilight, the first movie, he didn't have that much of a significant role. But as the movies progressed and we got more in depth into the saga, I think in New Moon he had a fantastic role. In Eclipse he had an even more important role because that's when the love triangle really reached a point of interest for me. And I think in Breaking Dawn this is going to be his most influential role that he's going to play in the saga. So it's nice. Like I said, he didn't really have such a huge role as Bella or Edward did in Twilight. He was just kind of there as an introductory to his character, and kind of said, "Hey, I'm going to be around for all 4 of these or 5 of these movies." So it's great to know that his role got better and better as the movies were released each year. Of course, the first one came out in 2008, November of 2008, I believe, and since then we've seen the characters undergo so many metamorphoses, so many changes. And it's nice to know now that we're going to get Breaking Dawn in not just one part but 2. I had anticipated that it was going to be one part, probably about 2.5 hours in length, or kind of like a Titanic length movie. But it's great that it's going to be broken up into 2 different parts. Of course, the first part coming out in 2011, and we're going to have to wait anywhere from 6 to 7 months for the final installment, Breaking Dawn Part 2, coming your way in June. So it's nice to know that it's broken up into 2 parts, and we're going to get a second part that we're going to have to anticipate. So Twilight fans are going to get kind of a break, because I know that when Breaking Dawn finally concludes and all the promotion wraps up and eventually it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD, we're going to go through a state of depression where Twilight fans are going to be upset because, as we know, the author of the books aren't writing anymore. So that's an unfortunate thing, because I know a lot of people love to read the books more so probably than they did see in the movie, because as always there's more detail included in a book that's compilated than a movie that's produced on the book, and Hollywood has made some of its more successful films from books. So I know there's a lot more detail in the books. You probably prefer the books over the movie, and a question I have to the listening audience is, are you one person who preferred the novels over the movies? I think the theatrical movies and the Blu-rays and the DVDs were great, but which did you prefer? I kind of think we're going to have more people say the book here on YouTube.com, Jonathan Clarke 22, than the movies, because the movies definitely have more detail in them, or the books, excuse me, have more detail in them than the movies, because the books, as I said, over 1,000 pages, Breaking Dawn in particular, over 1,000 pages. So how can you incorporate so much detail in just one movie? That's probably the reason why the movie was broken up into 2 different parts. And so many crucial things happen in Breaking Dawn, from the marriage of the 2 to the birth of the child to the changing. Don't mean to ruin it for you, but actually she changes through an injection of venom because he's too intimidated to bite her. So what he does is he injects venom into her, and that causes her to change and in the long term save her life. So a lot of things happen in this movie that will entice you to actually want to see it. And if you read the book, basically it's entices you even more to go see this. I think that it's definitely one of the more popular sagas that Hollywood has put together. And it's great if you can actually find these books on eBay or some book website like Amazon. I'd advise you to actually read them, because if you read the books before going to see the movie, you have a better interest and a better understanding of what these books really have illustrated over the years. They've definitely influenced very successful movies, but they include a lot of information that the movie kind of leave out. So it's nice to know that we're going to finally see Breaking Dawn after years of anticipation. I was one who has always been anticipating this change that we see Bella go through. I've always anticipated from the very first one when she's going to change. So I went on the internet and I actually read the ebooks, and I found out that the change doesn't happen until Breaking Dawn, and I was really upset over that. This was months before Breaking Dawn was ever released. I think it was during the filming of the movie over here in British Columbia, and I think parts of it were actually shot in the United Kingdom as well. But I think the books definitely include a lot more information than the movies, and the movies definitely leave out a lot. And that's the only con that I see coming from Twilight. I think there are a lot of movies that have a lot of detail left out of them. Not just the Twilight saga, but a lot of movies have a lot of detail left out of them, and that's a real downer, because if you've read the books, you know what details are left out and what details are put into the movie. When I first saw, I got to be honest with you, when I first saw the Twilight movie, the first one in '08, I thought that it looked like a movie that was put together in about a week and a half, because there weren't many special effects, there weren't many, exciting things happening in the movie. I thought that it was a movie that was probably put together and compilated within a week and a half. And as the saga got more detail with New Moon and Breaking Dawn and Eclipse, I felt that more and more work were put into these movies, and I think